look, okay, I guess what I'm saying is,
Mm-hmm.
even just to start with, as a baby, the notion of a higher or all-powerful entity that has created everything we experience, and exists outside of dimensions, and has the power to intervene in the most minute or the most or the biggest incidences or things in life. I think that way of thinking is not necessarily a natural thought, and somebody has had to teach somebody else that for them to believe it. Now, God could have, the actual creator could have been the catalyst for the initial questioning, but I just don't think that a baby born in a cave and left to its own devices for 20 years will come out and have an understanding or a notion of a creator.
Well, let's use this as a litmus test then, right? Let's say, for example, that, as you mentioned, that you were born in a cave and whatnot, and you had no one to raise you except for your own devices. Okay, speaking hypothetically here. So when it comes to belief systems, you're left with four basic belief systems, right? You're left with either pantheism, which is the belief that everything is God, everything is God. You're left with polytheism, which is the belief that there are multiple gods. You're left with monotheism, which is the belief that there is one God, or you're left with atheism, which is there is no God. Right? These are the four basic belief systems, and every human being will essentially fall into one of these four. Okay, it makes sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now let's look at the concept of atheism, because you're basically essentially saying that people have to be taught that God exists in order for God to exist. Am I correct in this?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No. I'm saying the existence of God separate.
Okay.
I'm talking about the thought process of man, of a untarnished, unindoctrinated being on this earth. Are we sure that this being, without any interaction from anyone else, is going to come up with the concept that we must have been created by an all-powerful being? Now, I don't know if those are logical steps for
right. So this is exactly what I'm saying. I want to make sure that, because I don't want to essentially say something that you're not saying, right? So you're saying that you're skeptical that this is a natural step that people would not they would accept the creator without outside influence. Am I understanding you correct?
Just even to fathom it, okay,
great.
Think about it. Like, I wonder if I was created by some super being. Like, I just don't know.
Excellent. So everything in our existence, would you agree, when it comes to human beings, we do things with purpose and intention? For example, you go to work. Why do you go to work? You go to work because you want to achieve some financial, benefit, correct? And you eat because you want to, quell your hunger, or you drink because you want to quench your thirst, But all of these things we do with a direct purpose. Now, when you think about the purpose, for example, of your eyeballs, okay, just your eyeballs only, right? Yeah. How they measure distance, opacity, color, movement. Right now, you're probably watching your screen. You can make a distinction between the brother feature speaking and who else is on the panel, and as well as you're able to decipher letters and make those letters make sense into words. And your brain is sending you messages to make that make sense. Are you saying that this came up by chance? Just your eyeball?
No.
Okay, so now imagine now somebody now is reflecting on his existence. He's reflecting on his existence. He sees cars going down the street. Does he watch the vehicle and he say, you know what? I've seen this vehicle. It has a motor, it has an engine, it has gas, it has a steering wheel, but I'm just skeptical that somebody made that vehicle.
No, that's not the point.
Right. And which is more difficult to make, a vehicle or your eyeball?
Right, but you could perceive somebody creating either one. Does not mean that they are like a super being, right? You could perceive somebody like this is what I'm saying. If you actually think about a person that has been allowed to not be indoctrinated by the thoughts and ideas of others that came before them, we're essentially dealing with a blank sheet of paper.
Right.
Not only that, with your analogy, we would then look to our parents as that higher being.
Right. Right. So I want to stay with you right there, right? Because what you're saying now, the indoctrination part in Islam, we have this. We have that the people are born upon what is known in Arabic is called fitra, or the natural disposition, right? Rather, their parents are the ones who take them off the fitra and have them believing other things. Now, atheism in itself is largely a European concept, and atheism was given steam because there was a sort of, you could say, like a schism between the church and the scientific community in Europe. You understand? Atheism in itself, right now, if you look at the atheists in the 1800s and compare them to today, it's always evolving. And the reason why it's always evolving is because it is one of the most difficult concepts to prove. Because to say that something came from nothing is completely and totally unscientific. We never see this. We never see this or witness this with our own eyes, or hear with our own ears, or things in nature. And it just doesn't happen. It does not happen. But atheism wants to convince people that all of this came from nothing. And then they try to convince you that the reason why you believe in a God is because you're indoctrinated, right? That's what they're trying to that's the whole argument.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
You're with me here, right? So, however, in Islam, we say that everybody is innately born upon what is known as fitra, or the natural disposition. However, your parents or as you were mentioning, the indoctrination, these are the people who take you off the natural disposition, because naturally you would automatically know, with all things being equal, that God does actually exist. You would come to that conclusion. It is not.
Man, I don't know. I'm not. I'm with you, and this is a thought exercise, right? And I'm just not convinced that unstimulated a man is going to come to the same conclusion.
No problem. Are you an atheist? Are you an atheist?
No, not at all, bro. I believe in, and this is a thing. I believe in a creator.
Okay.
And that is my default belief system. Why? Because I was raised into a religious household. So now, even though I've separated from the religion I was raised into, which was Jehovah's Witness, I have now achieved, hopefully, an agnostic stance where I believe in a creator, right? I am not convinced that my belief in the creator is a default setting, but I acknowledge it's still there. I'm not sure who the creator is, or what the creator is, or why the creator is.
Right. So agnosticism, right?
Yeah.
If it's within that same category that we talked about, right? What agnosticism is a type of monotheism that atheists use to say that we're not sure. that God exists, but we think that
Can't
God
use that
exists.
if an atheist doesn't believe. If an atheist doesn't believe in God, you can't
We
use that.
believe that God, the evidence is pointing to a creator.
Brother,
Who that creator is, we're not quite sure. Go ahead.
All right, sorry, brother. We
Yeah, go
can't
ahead.
whittle down not knowing to being a tool of somebody that doesn't believe. That's not because you said agnosticism is basically something that is utilized by atheists. I don't think that's fair. I'm by no way, shape, or form an atheist, even though I am open to the idea that there actually is no creator. There is no this default thing that I've
right.
I'm open to that idea, even I don't believe it.
Yeah. So in reality, we're not actually saying much different, right? We're not saying anything much different.
We're not.
Okay.
Just you have a name for your creator, and you are sure, and I'm not.
That's what I. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Right. I said that.